Hey there, welcome to the Agents of Revival podcast. If you're ready to be healed and take full accountability of your life by evolving into your best self, then this is the podcast for you. I am your host, Andrea Griffin Rogers, and I'll share with you winning steps as well as personal tips and anecdotes on how to go from brokenness to wholeness and from scattered pieces to inner peace. So come on in and join me on this healing journey, and let's become whole together. Enjoy it! Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going? How are you today? I pray that all is well. This message stirs your faith, falls on good ground, and produces what? Good fruit in your lives. Kudos to those that got it right. Go ahead. Look at you being a dedicated listener. I appreciate you. I love you so much. And for those that are new to the podcast, welcome. Now, I know you thought this was probably going to be, a typical healing wellness podcast where you would hear tropical sounds and calming noises. And sometimes I do that. And then sometimes your girl like to turn up, okay? But it's still all in love, and it still has a point. Because life can't always just be calm and smooth or Debbie Downer. Sometimes the storms and the waves come crashing. Sometimes the ground shakes a little bit. Sometimes there's a chuckle in your belly and the laughter comes out, and you got to be able to experience it all, because we are human beings. And hello, I taught on this before. If you missed the episode, look in the archives of the podcast. Hello world, it's a new world order. Or hello humans, it's a new world order. You got to understand that you were made to be human. And what does it mean to be human? It means to have feelings and emotions. It means to go through some things and understand that it's okay if what you went through gets you down for a moment, but it don't have to get you down for the rest of your life. You don't got to stay stuck in that thing. You can get out. There are no accidents with God, nor are there coincidences. It is all for a purpose, and you may not see it at the time. It may not look like it. It may not sound like it. You may feel like, well, but you don't know my story, Andrea. You don't know what I've been through, baby. I get it. You don't know all my story. I've shared many of parts of my story with you guys on here, but there's still some things that I haven't even dug deeper into to share with you, or to even go into the depths of layers of the things that I had shared with you of how I felt through the process of going through those things. But I stand here today being able to say humbly and honestly, I count it all joy for the transgressions that I went through. It was good that I went through that, because I'm able to see life in a different way. I'm able to experience the peace and the joy and the presence of the Lord like never before. And I'm also seeing the blessings, the other side of the pain. I've gotten out of the storm and the eye of the storm, and I now see the rainbow on the other side. And it's much beautiful. But I didn't get here overnight. I also didn't get here because by happenstance either. I got here because intentionality. I was intentional and disciplined in the areas that God told me to be disciplined and intentional about. And part of that intentionality was my healing. I couldn't just say out my mouth and pray the prayer of I want to be healed, but not be willing to walk the walk. You can't just be about talk. You have to be willing to put in the work. And that could be different for various people. Because maybe your issue is not a mental issue, but maybe your issue is a physical condition. Has God been telling you to go to physical therapy and you've been not wanting to? Has God told you to get into a gym or to start working out with a trainer and you haven't wanted to, or even just to go for a walk and you haven't wanted to? We have to look at ourselves. Stop looking at the external factors. Stop pointing the fingers and saying, well, it's because of this person, it's because of that person. No. We are adults now. And no matter what age you are, I know in most countries it's over 18. Here in America, it's over 21. Like, you are considered an adult. Actually, in America, if it's a criminal offense, you're considered an adult at 18. And so we now have to be willing to be mindful of our own healing. Your trauma was not your problem. Meaning your trauma, what happened to you in the past, was not your responsibility to stop it from happening or to fix what happened. But what is yours to fix is your healing. What is yours to be intentional about is how you overcome because of what you went through. That is your responsibility. Your healing journey is nobody else's responsibility but yours. And so we can't keep faulting people for why we're still stuck in bondage. Well, because you did this to me and you don't know how she hurt me. My fellas out there, it don't matter. It is not their responsibility to fix your heart. They may have been part of the problem of breaking it. And the reason why I say part of the problem is because we have to take ownership of us. You can't keep pointing the finger at somebody else and saying, well, it's their fault. Were there red flags that showed you that the person was not for you? Were there stages along the way? Because I believe God always shows us red flags before the accident occurs. We think, oh no, the accident just kind of happened out the way. It just took me by surprise. No, there's no surprises with God. He already knew what was going to happen because he's the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. The author and the finisher of your faith and your life. So he already knew what was going to happen. So it didn't take him by surprise, but it took you by surprise. But why? Some of the things that we went through, there were signs. There were signs that said you should not be with that group of friends or befriend that person. There were signs that said you should not get in that relationship. There were signs that said you should not move to this location. There were signs that said you should not enter into that job or business partnership. There were signs. You want to know how I know? Because I've seen it in my own life. Not to mention, have I heard it from other people's lives and testimonies that where they got to the point of healing for themselves as well, to be able to recognize that they have to be accountable. Yeah. You have to take some ownership and accountability for the accident that occurred in your life. Now, okay, it happened. You didn't stop it from happening. Okay, but now what do we do afterwards? It's like a car crash. It happened. Okay, but why sit here and keep saying, woe is me, woe is me, woe is me? What can you do now to get up and move forward? Now, in a natural accident occurrence, especially if nobody was injured, then it's simple. Get on the phone, call the police, make a report, call your car insurance, and go through the process. But you have some people that would literally be stuck at that place that the accident occurred and cannot shift, cannot move. I mean, I've seen it. I remember my car was in an accident along with somebody else's. Somebody, sideswiped my car, so to speak, and they crashed into somebody else's. And the person was going off, baby, at the person who hit the car. And then the person took responsibility. They took responsibility to apologize. They gave their paperwork or whatever. And the person still was going on. Now, I'm calm because I'm like, you know what? It's just a car. Now, does this mean that it may hinder, where I have to go, whatever? I get that. But it's an inanimate object. It's not a life. All of our lives were spared. So the car got some dings or whatever. Thank God for car insurance. Just call the insurance. Just call the police. If you want to call the police, file the report, call the car insurance, and let the process take its course. There are people already there and assigned to deal with the headache. I don't have to have the headache. But this particular person, let's say the other driver who got caught, got her car got a little bit more damaged. Oh baby, she was going off. She was having a screaming fit. I mean, even when she was on the phone with somebody who was trying to calm her down, she still no, but you don't know what they just did. Okay, you've told me what they just did. They hit your car. They're there owning it, taking responsibility for it. They apologize for it. You're waiting for the police to come and do what needs to be done so that you can get the paperwork going and start it for the insurance claim. Like, everything is being taken care of. Why are you still screaming and hollering? Are you hurt? No, I'm not hurt. But you don't know. They just hit my car. Okay, but it's a car. Yes, the accident occurred. You didn't see it happen. And for those that are new listeners, I use practical examples for spiritual principles. So yes, this accident happened in your life. Somebody dropped the ball in the way they handled you. Somebody messed up. Somebody broke your heart. So there was some childhood trauma. There was some sexual abuse. There was some, molestation, rape. Somebody abandoned you, rejected you, talked bad about you, threw you under the bus. You name it. You went through it. Okay, I get that. And in no way, shape, or form am I going to sit here and say that your emotions are not validated. That pain didn't hurt you. It did. I get it. I understand and I empathize with you. But what can we do now moving forward? And this is something that my own counselor said to me when I was in therapy. Because I too was like, but you don't know the accident and you don't know and I'm going on. And she listened. For many, many sessions, she listened. And then finally, when I felt like I had purged it all, or at least the majority of it, she said, okay, now what can be done? We can't change what happened. We can't change what they did to you. We can't change how they handled you. But what we can do is move forward in how you heal. How can you take it, instead of looking at it as just all bad? What can you take from it of good? Meaning the lesson that it taught you. And most people would say, well, the lesson it taught me was to never trust again and put this guard. No, now you're putting up a guard of offenses. I talk about it as fences of offenses. You literally are offended, so you're still not healed. And you put up a barrier, block around you, around your heart, that nobody can get into, but you also can never get out of. So therefore, you stay stuck in a box and imprisoned there. You're never free. And so God is saying to you today, there's no coincidence that you're receiving this message. Yes, the accident occurred. Yes, it happened. Yes, they did you wrong. Yes, they did you dirty. Yes, they talked about you. Yes, they dropped the ball. Yes, these things happened to you. God's not negating that it happened. But what he is saying is, now what are you going to do moving forward? Are you going to be intentional about your healing? Are you going to get into counseling? Are you going to roll your sleeves up and do the work of forgiveness? Oh, yeah, because that's part of it. You cannot get to the place of healing without forgiveness. There is no side swiping that. I know that culture wants to teach you that you don't have to forgive. No. To true healing, and inner peace, wholeness and wellness comes from the balance of acknowledging what you went through, but also forgiving the person who offended you, forgiving the person who caused the accident. Now, it's hard to do that when it first happened. I'll be honest, it is. But that's why Jesus says in the Bible, when Peter asks, how many times shall I forgive? And he says 70 times 7. It wasn't about counting the cost of that and literally counting on your fingers and toes and whatnot of like, how, did I forgive today? Okay, that was 1, 2, 3, 4. No, it wasn't about that. It's about understanding that it's a number that you can't even imagine, because as you forgive and forgive more, think about if you really were to count, by the time you got to forgiving that person for that accident, by the time you got to 50, forget even getting to 100, by the time you got to 50, you probably would be well over it by then. And then be like 50, what am I counting for? What was I supposed to forgive you for? I don't even remember. Yeah, because there will come a point in time where you don't even remember the pain or the sting of that hurt. But it comes with you being intentional about doing the work now. Yeah, the accident happened. But now, what do we do? Was it a coincidence? I think not. Was it a coincidence that you stopped and listened to this message? I think not. Was it a coincidence that God is saying to you today, specifically you, that pushed play You may have been listening to this entire time like, this message ain't for me. Baby, if you're listening to it, it's for you. Because I've learned that in my life, God does not allow me to hear or see anything that's not for me. Whenever I stop to listen to something, especially if I listen to the end, it's for me. I've listened to messages where I heard somebody give an encouraging word, and maybe, let's say they're teaching for 20 minutes. The first 15 might have been like, okay, I know that. Like, I've already done that work. Check. You're singing to the choir, basically. Like, I've already done it. Like, this isn't for me. But it'd be that last 5 minutes. They'd be like, baby, you know what? That's why I had to listen. Because that was for me. Oh my goodness. That was for me. Wow. I had to go through the rest of the message just to get to this point. But I didn't know that that message was going to come, or that point was going to come. So I had to keep listening to get to that point. And so, speaking of that, then let me shift gears for a minute, because I want to tell you a story about what happened to me today that also inspired and encouraged this message. Because I was like, ooh, you know what, God? There are no accidental coincidences with you. And so what happened to me was I had a meeting with someone on my team, and I was just telling them, like, hey, what's going on with this? I kind of gave you the ball with this. I want to know what's going on and whatnot. And this is what I have coming up. And so we just kind of talking about what we have, going for you and what we're going to present to you all as the time continues to progress with Agents of Revival, because God is moving. And so I'm like, okay, bet. So what's going on? Going down the list. And part of what they were telling me about, I remember one part of the project was them telling me they had to put a pause on it. And I was like, at the time, I'm trying to be understanding. And I'm like, okay, cool. They gave me a timeline. It'll be a pause for about 2 weeks. Okay, fine. 2 weeks is up. What's going on? And they were like, oh, well, I'm just getting back into it. Now, I thought, even though they said it's going to pause, at least by that second week, they would have been picking it back up. But no, they really needed that whole 2 weeks. Now, I didn't know what they were going through. And so thankfully, I responded in kindness, because then it opened the door for them to say, but I do thank you for that 2 weeks, because I had A, B, C, D, E going on, and I was really struggling. And they were pouring their heart out. And it made me realize, wow, here I was thinking that they forgot about the assignment. And no. They were dealing with their own accident. They were dealing with their own issue that caused a collision in their life that they had to tend to on another end. And it's like, wow. Okay, well, look, there is no coincidences with God. He knew before I knew that you needed that 2 weeks, and that I had to be patient to give it to you. And he also knew I needed it as well. Because as I realized, while I'm sitting here being anxious about, well, what's going on with this? And is this, business plan happening? And is this business, moving forward? And And as I'm like, again, because I'm the leader, I'm the boss, as I'm just in my own mind about everything that I need done, and how I'm complaining to God, I'm be honest, complaining to God about, well, this is not getting done on this timeline, and I'm really getting frustrated with this, and God, is this working? And God kept telling me, I need you to just be still and be patient. Why? Because he had a different vantage point than I did. He knew before that person released to me what they were going through. He knew what they were going through and why they needed that time to just heal and mend and tend to what they needed to tend to. And so when I talked to them today, they were like, oh, I'm really excited. Like, yes, I've started working on this now. And no, I didn't get to that yet, but we do have some meetings tomorrow. And I'm like, oh, wow. So you have already put together a plan of action to tackle the assignment now that you're basically back in action. But I had to realize that what seemed like an accident, what seemed like a collision that seemed so catastrophic that because it wasn't working the way I thought it should work, it wasn't going the way I thought it should go, that no, when in that patientness, in that waiting, in that being still moment, God was creating and putting together things and handling and taking and getting rid of other things in other areas that I did not even know of. And so sometimes we have to realize that there are no coincidences with God, especially when it comes to waiting. He tells you to wait for a reason, because he knows what's up ahead of you. He knows the challenges that you're going to face up ahead, but he also knows the people that you're going to need and what they're dealing with and what they're going through. Another example, I talked to somebody else today. And this person is not a part of the team, but just somebody that God recently connected our paths. And they were like, I just knew that I had to, get in contact with you. I just, and the way they found out about me was just like, oh, like word of mouth. And it shocked me because it was like, I didn't even know I was being spoken of in rooms that I wasn't in. But they were like, yeah, I just knew when they told me, I just knew I had to connect with you. And I was like, look at God. I didn't know. I didn't know you before this time. I didn't know that there was a reason why we had to cross paths. I did not know, but God knew. And so sometimes that pause, that being still, that waiting, that feels so weighty. It feels so heavy when we're waiting because we're so anxious to move forward and to see things get done. And sometimes we got to be patient because God's working on those who we will one day connect with. Because as I heard this person's story, I was like, wow, clearly God knew the exact time we needed to connect. Because if we would have connected any earlier, you would not be at the stage you were in to receive me, to receive what God has put in my heart to share with you. Nor would you be at a place where you're hungry enough to do the assignment that God has told you to do. Because now you're at a roadblock and you're like, okay, I can't go no further. So I need to know what's the next step. And that's the very place where God is saying, yes, now I can work with that. Because you recognize that you have like a crash test dummy on car commercials. You sped up to this point and you've crashed. And now you're like the accident occurred. Well, what's next? It's no coincidence that you hit that. If you look at if you've never seen a commercial like that before, I don't know what country you're in, then Google it or YouTube it, crash test of car commercials or crash test dummies or whatever. And they'll show you that every car that they put out, they test the car to make sure the airbag's going to work, to make sure that the body impact won't be too damaging from the accident if it's a big head-on collision, to make sure that the seatbelt is working, that all the safety points are checked. And so they release the car at a particular speed, and normally it's pretty fast. And then they watch slow motion back on a screen how that impact occurred between the car, the human being in the car, and the wall that it hit. And that's how they're able to study and make sure that they put together the right car so that if you do have an accident, it's not detrimental to your health. You didn't end your life or lose your life because of this particular accident. And so that's kind of like how God works with us. But he's already done the process of seeing when that collision is going to come and what we're going to learn from it. So that's why he's saying to you today, like, okay, yes, the accident occurred, but what do we learn from it? And it wasn't of offense of, well, let's not get to an accident ever again. No, it's looking at the safety points. Because there's still some good even in the accident. If you look at a crash test, simulation, a well-built car, even though it crashed into the wall and the exterior of the car may have been damaged, the human being is still present. The human being is still alive. The human being didn't have as much impact as the car around it did. So that breaks down spiritually between our inner man, which is our spirit man, and the external. Yes, this flesh got bruised. Yes, this flesh got hurt. It got some stings and some dents and some dings to it. Yeah, that occurred. But we live in a flesh that's dying every day anyway. That's why we are spirits wrapped in flesh. We come from the Creator God. And so he wraps us in flesh in this earth. But this body, this fleshly body, is not meant to be forever. It's temporary. And so though life may have hit you and you've got some dings and some cracks and some bruises and whatnot, and maybe parts of you kind of got shattered all over the place, and some parts, you may have lost some blood, so to speak, like the car may have lost parts of the glass that kind of shattered everywhere, But that's okay, because your spirit man can still be strengthened. Your spirit man is still safe because God has it. And it is your job to be intentional about tapping into that spirit man so that you can be healed from within outward. It's a heart transplant, baby. And God says, when you allow me to do a working in your heart to, heal you from within, then you'll have a better outlook on life, and your light will shine so brightly that others will be drawn to it, to be coming to you like, what is it about you? I heard somebody say to me earlier, they were like, I saw somebody from my past and they were like, man, you are glowing. What changed about, like, something is different with you. And I've experienced that in my life too, where people are like, wow, I see such a difference in you. There is such a glow. There is such a healthiness in you. Like, my God, you don't look like what you came through. And that's the thing. God does not want us to look like what we came through. Yes, you went through the fire, but you're supposed to not smell like smoke, baby. You're supposed to come out of that looking more like him. And there's a story in the Bible, it's to wrap up, where it's in the book of Daniel. And most people know them as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, but that's not their real names. Their names got changed to Babylonian names. It's Hananiah, Azariah, Mishael. And they don't want to bow down to the king and his golden statue. So he throws them into a fiery furnace. And he thinks that they're going to die because they are unwilling to bow down to him, the king, and they're willing to stand on their faith in Adonai, the one true God. And so he watches, and even the fire is so hot, the Bible says in the book of Daniel, that the guards are burned up trying to put the prisoners who they bound up into the furnace. And so as they're in the furnace, the king is watching this all play out. And the king jumps up. Oh my goodness. I thought I bound up and put 3 men in there, but there's a fourth man who looks like a god. What is going on? Get them out, get those men out of there. And so basically the men come out, and the king is flabbergasted. There is no singes on their clothes. Their clothes still look white and pristine. They don't smell like smoke. They don't look like that they were just in a furnace. And so he's trying to figure out, how did this be? And then he says, it must have been your God. Your God saved you. And so from now on, he decreed that you can go ahead and continue worshiping your God. He realized he was foolish in asking them to bow down to him when God was more powerful. And so the moral of the story is that don't be taken off guard because you went through an accident. Yeah, there was some dings and some bruises or whatever, but God is going to, if you allow him to do a working in you that is going to keep you protected, like the fourth man, which he says looked like a god in the story. It was God. And God says, when you invite me in the midst of the fires with you, when you invite me in the midst of the accident with you, when you invite me in the midst of the fiery trials and tribulations of your life, I will cause you to come out of this thing not looking like what you've been through. And people, even those who threw you in there, who caused the harm, who caused the accident, who threw the dirt on you, they will be shocked because they will see that what they threw on you did not even stick. You came out not smelling like smoke. Baby, there are no coincidences with God. So we got to get out of here. But may the Lord bless you and keep you, cause his face to shine upon you. May the Lord our God be gracious to you, show you his favor, and give you his shalom, give you his peace. Take care. Love you guys. Bye now.